In this video, we are going to be taking a look at Java's unary operators. So a unary operator is basically an operator that is going to operate on an operand, a variable on just one variable. So it's going to be very specific. So we saw previously the arithmetic operators operated on two variables. It did operations involving two variables to bring them together in some way. Here, this works on one. And when I first saw these, when I was a new developer, I first saw these and went, that's kind of clever. So they do have some clever functionality. There are some important aspects that you need to learn about them, but they can be very handy and useful when you are programming in Java. So the first thing I want to do is go over and just take a look at the unary operators that we have available to us. I'm going to do that through a slide presentation now. So up on the screen here, I have a list of the Java unary operators. And you can see that there's 5 operators that we're dealing with, and I'm just going to discuss what's available here inside of Java programming language. So the first operator, minus sign, the way you use that is you put it in front of a variable. So just minus variable name. And this is going to negate the value. It's very much like doing a times -1 on it. So if the variable is negative, it's going to flip positive. If it is positive, it will flip negative. So very important behavior of that. Now the plus operator, this indicates a positive value. This one can trip you up. You might expect similar functionality to the minus operator, where it would flip a negative value to a positive. It does not. So this is a very easy mistake to make, inferring that. I'm not quite sure why the Java programming language implemented that way. Just presenting you how it actually did that. So the next two are very important but similar. The plus plus is going to increment a value by 1. And the minus minus, very important there on the screen there. It looks like just one long line. That is actually 2 minus signs. So minus minus variable name is going to decrement the value by 1. So that will subtract 1 from the value. And what's important here, you can see that they can be used in front of the variable or after the variable. Now, if they are within a statement, arithmetic statement, if they're part of a statement, the plus plus operator before is going to be action before the statement is evaluated. So that value would change before that arithmetic statement is evaluated. Then the statement itself will be evaluated. If it is after, the statement is going to be evaluated first with the current value of that variable. Then after that statement is evaluated, the variable will get changed. So probably, I don't know if you're seeing it in your mind here of what's happening. Very important to realize before the variable gets changed before the statement. If after the variable gets changed after the statement. And coming up shortly, we'll have a demonstration of this inside of IntelliJ. I think that'll help clear it up when you see actually how this does behave in a coding environment. Next, we have the explanation point. So this is very important, dealing with Boolean values. So what it does is if the Boolean value is true, it's going to flip it to false. And likewise, if the value is false, it will flip it to true. And so the explanation point, or I like to call it the bang sign, this is basically going to flip or invert a Boolean value. Very handy. We'll see a couple examples of it in the coding example coming up, and we will definitely be seeing this further on in the course. It's actually frequently used inside the Java programming language. It is a very handy thing to have. Just remember the explanation point will flip a Boolean value. So as you can see, the unary operators that we have within the Java programming language are pretty straightforward as far as their descriptions. And I'm sure looking at the slide deck there, you're going, hey, totally understandable. So what I'm going to do now is I want to jump over to IntelliJ, show you some demonstrations of how these operators actually work. I think it will clear up a lot of fuzziness that you may have, because these operators are an important aspect of the Java programming language, and they are very handy to use. So I'm going to go over to IntelliJ now and show you how these are used using variables, the integer variable, and we will use these operators to operate on variables, and I'll show you how they can affect the outcome of a program statement, and I'll do that inside of IntelliJ right now. Okay, in this video we are going to be going through Java unary operators. So I want to bring something back. We learned about earlier in the course, and that is Java packages. So what right now, everything is sitting in the root, and that's not a very good habit. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in and say right-click, and I'm going to say New Package. And remember, convention in Java is to use the reverse domain name. So I own the domain Spring Framework Guru. So what I'm going to do is guru.spring framework. And here I'm just going to create a package called examples, like so. So that is my new package. And now let's come in here. I'm going to create a new Java class, and we'll call that Unary Operators, like so. So that's my new class. And what you can see here is now I have a package declaration of Guru Spring Framework examples. So if I come back to the arithmetic, you can see top line, there is no package declaration. So very important aspect to the Java class. So now I have a package called guru.springframework.examples. And this here, even though this looks like one line, if you go to the file system and look, these are separate folders. So under the source directory, I'm going to have a directory called Guru. And within that, I'm going to have Spring Framework. And within that directory, I will have examples. And right here, right at the top of the screen there, where you can see my first project, we have the source folder. You can actually see the little folders there. So you got source, Guru, Spring Framework, examples. So in the file system, these are the folders or directories that everything is contained in. So let's go ahead and start taking a look at what we have for examples within Unary Operators. So the first thing I'm going to do is come in and create the main class. So let's come in and say public static void main. So I'm just typing out the first initials there. IntelliJ is going to do the autocomplete. I'm going to hit enter, create the main class. And let's create an integer, and we'll call this one 5. And let's do a negative integer. We'll call that neg2. Equals -2, like so. And let's do an integer of a result. And all we will do here is take 5 plus -2, like so. So that's going to give our result. And let's do system out, like so. And what we will do is create a string before, and I'm doing a little space there, and I'm using the plus sign. This is going to concatenate. And let's say, do 5. And then we'll also say plus. And you can see I'm doing multiple plus signs here. So I'm concatenating together a longer string, plus -2. And we want -2 in there. And let's also show the result. And notice how I'm putting spaces within the string so that I get the proper output in the console. And what I want to do here is also, what I'm going to set this up is between these two statements. I just did a cut and paste there, and I'm going to call this one after, like so. And now if I run this, I want to show you the output before we do start working with any of the Unary operators. So now we can see before and after. So obviously they're the same. We haven't modified any of the variables yet. So let's start using the Unary operators to modify those. So let's say -2 equals -2. So here what I'm doing a reassignment. So I'm taking the -2 and doing a reassignment. So I'm effectively going to be multiplying that by -1. So I'm going to run this again. And down in the console, we can see that the result has changed. And you can see I do have one error there because the result value did not change. And what I need to do is basically repeat this operation because the -2 variable has changed. So I'm just going to copy that and put it right here so that runs after. So we'll reassign the result to the current variables of 5 and -2. So let's run that again one more time, and we'll see that the result value has in fact changed. So exactly what we're looking for. So before 5 was equal to 5, -2 was equal to -2, and the result equaled 3. Now 5 is 5. Negative 2 has been changed to positive 2, so the result is 7. So what I'm going to do here, this is going to be checked into the course resources for you. And let's run a couple scenarios here. I'm going to comment this line out. And let's reassign 5 equals negative 5, like so. So we're going to reassign that using that negative unary operator. And now let's go ahead and run this again. And now we can see that 5 changed to negative 5, and our result changes to negative 7. So let's go ahead and comment that one out. I'm going to leave these comments in there so you can see these different scenarios if you pull down the source code from the course resources. Now let's take a look at the plus operator. So what I'm going to do here is let's take the negative 2 equals plus negative 2. Now let's take a look at the result here, and I want to demonstrate something very important. Now we can see, even though I'm putting the plus sign in front of negative 2 stays negative. So very, very important. That plus sign there is kind of misleading. So if you put it in front of a plus value or a positive value, it stays positive. If you put it in front of a negative value, it stays negative. So I'm not quite sure what the thinking is behind that, because its presence there does kind of say that, hey, I want to flip this to the positive. It does not, in fact, work that way. So it just kind of indicates intention, I guess. So very easy to think that that plus operator is going to flip to a negative. However, it does not. We can see there from the result that negative 2 with the plus operator did stay negative. So I'm just going to comment that one out. And now let's take a look at the plus plus operator. So if I come in here and if I do 5 and I do plus plus, what's going to happen there is we're going to see that 5 is going to get incremented. And so 5 goes to 6, result goes to 4. And in this situation here, it does not matter where I put that. So I can put it either, I comment that line out. And we can see that the result in this case stays the same. However, I comment that out. If I come down here in this statement and I run it there, so I'm running it before, we can see that 5 increments to 6, and then the evaluation is evaluated. And so 6 minus 2 equals 4. However, if I put it afterwards, that's very important. If I put it after, let's go ahead and run it and see the results. Now we can see that the statement was evaluated first, and then the variable 5 was incremented. So it did get incremented, but the results of this arithmetic statement gets evaluated first. The increment happens after, and that is all done based on whether or not that plus plus is in front of it or after it. And the minus minus works the same. We can demonstrate that here. Let's put the minus minus in front of negative 2 and run that. So this is going to run before the statement is evaluated. So we can see that the result does change. So 5 minus 3 equals 2. So here, I want to be very clear. When the statement runs, because the plus plus is after, the 5 stays at 5. However, with negative 2, because the minus minus is in front of it, it gets decremented by 1. So it goes from negative 2 to negative 3. Statement is evaluated. Then it comes back, and the variable 5 is incremented because the plus plus is trailing. So very, very important distinction. If you don't understand this, you can definitely get yourself in trouble. Very easy to make mistakes. So very, very important to be cognitive of this. And this is another favorite interview question to understand how these operators work. Now, the last thing that we want to talk about here is the Boolean operator. So let's do this. I'm just going to create an extra statement here, and we'll say Boolean. We'll say is awesome equals false, like so. And I missed a semicolon. Don't forget that semicolon is very important. And I'm just doing system out, enter. And we'll do is awesome, add that in, is awesome. And let's go ahead and run this like that. And we'll see that is awesome stays false. However, if I do the bang or exclamation point in front of is awesome, go ahead and run that. Now we can see is awesome flip to true. And likewise, if I'd started off at true and use that exclamation point in front of it, it would flip to the other way. So pretty handy way to change the value of a Boolean variable. So here I've given you a number of different examples. If you're unsure about anything, write out this code, run some experiments, see how these unary operators work against variables. It's helpful to just go through it. If you're wondering about something, how does it work in this situation? Go ahead and write a little code to test it out. See if you have any doubts. Go ahead and write code and see what happens. Experiment with it and give it a try. And again, the source code for these examples here, you can see how I commented things out as I went. Did that intentionally so that you have these working examples in the source code that's going to be available inside the course resources.